What is going on, guys? It is Wrestlelamia here, back with another video. Christmas is just days away, but for WWE superstars, it's all about getting ready for New Year's Day and the WWE's Day 1 pay-per-view. Join us now as we look at this week's edition of the Red Brand, as well as the wildest news stories and rumors you need to know, including WWE returning to the Thunderdome, Roman Reigns responds to a hilarious sign, a wrestler blast booking of Indian wrestlers in WWE, Bray Wyatt is in 2K22, and much more. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell for daily wrestling videos, and follow us on Facebook for exclusive lists. Now, as always, we won't recap the matches, but just provide you with the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. As always, we start off with the good as number 1, Styles goes solo. Now, last night's Raw saw the end of the AJ Styles Almost team, and while the WWE has had a terrible habit of needlessly breaking up tag teams, this one looks like it should serve two purposes: get AJ Styles back into singles rank, although we'll see it might not be the direction fans are expecting, and getting Almost into singles matches. The WWE has done a superb job using the Styles Almost team to get Almost over as an unstoppable monster, while also giving Almost the time he needs to hone his in-ring skills. Almost has come a long way from his debut, and if he can continue improving, he could become one of the WWE's best big men. The only challenge is in the booking. If Almost does enter singles competition as expected, the WWE needs to book him carefully, or they'll fall into the same trap they did with The Fiend, creating a veritable force of nature and struggling to find viable opponents or scenarios where he can lose. Almost is gold, and now it's time to see whether the WWE will give fans the gold mine or the shaft. Number 2, Chad Gable's superb sell. Congratulations to Chad Gable for one of the best sells of an RKO we've seen in a long time. The RKO out of nowhere has been around so long that sometimes fans forget just how awesome the move looks when the recipient sells it the right way. Gable sold the move like a champ, another reminder of the many subtleties he brings to his matches. Number 3, Bianca Belair's phenomenal feat of physicality. Last night's match between Doudrop and Bianca Belair saw a fantastic feat of strength when Bianca Belair lifted Doudrop's considerable weight and hit the kiss of death. This amazing athletic display was a 21st century version of WrestleMania 3's The Irresistible Force meets The Immovable Object. Who needs to see Hogan slamming Andre after this slam? But as cool as Belair's KOD was, it's time for both women to move on. Now, we're sure we're not alone when we breathe a sigh of relief after hearing last night's Doudrop vs Bianca Belair match was billed as the final chapter. This so-called feud has been nothing more than filler, a way to keep Doudrop and Bianca Belair without putting any effort into the storyline. The WWE should be doing so much more with the EST, and Doudrop also deserves better. Number 4, they can coexist, Rollins and Owens. Last night's hug between Seth Rollins and Owens was the perfect way for the WWE to put a fresh spin on its can they coexist trope, as Seth and KO work together to make life miserable for WWE Champion Big E and Bobby Lashley. The WWE has been teasing tension between the two heels for so long, but last night's shenanigans by Seth and Kevin were well executed, showing the former rivals finally realizing that they can do more damage together than they can on their own. Naturally, the big test will be at Day 1 when both men are in the same ring vying for Big E's WWE Championship. The WWE should consider keeping these two together as they make an excellent team, and the two are fantastic foils for the WWE's babyfaces. But that was good. What about the bad? As number 1, Bobby the babyface. The WWE needs to reevaluate its apparent plans to turn Bobby Lashley babyface. While Raw has several strong main event heels now, such as Seth Rollins and Kevin Owens, Bobby Lashley remains the Red Brand's only monster heel, and while we can think of no good reason to turn him babyface, the only way his babyface turn will work is if the WWE decides to make it a swerve and have Lashley turn on Big E. It's bad enough the WWE ruined the Hurt business. Do they want to alienate more fans by turning Lashley into a babyface? Number 2, Vince loves firings. Mr. McMahon is an asshole. That's been well established throughout the years, as a TV character has pulled one diabolical trick after another on his enemies, making him one of wrestling's greatest heels. However, did the WWE really feel they needed to bring up the WWE's highly criticized policy of mass releases and incorporate it into a true WTF moment? Apparently so, as Mr. McMahon warned Austin Theory he was thinking of firing them, reminding Theory that he loves firing people, especially right before the holidays. Considering the WWE just dumped a slew of superstars in November, it's clear Vince gives zero shits about his wrestlers, and after last night's show, it's also clear there's little difference between Vince McMahon the corporate asshole and Vince McMahon the TV character. Number 3, Veer is coming. Seriously, this must be a meme by now. Number 4, Liv the Loser. The WWE Universe loves Liv Morgan, as does ourselves, so why is the WWE pushing the plucky blonde as a clueless competitor that Becky Lynch runs circles around every time they meet? As cringy as Liv's failed attack on Becky was, as they posted a video of Morgan stalking Lynch at Becky's training center and mistakenly attacking one of Lynch's ginger wrestlers, last night's promo by Morgan was a mealy-mouthed mess. As long as the WWE presents Morgan this way, fans are going to see her as an enhancement talent with no business in a championship program. What did you guys think of Raw last night? Let us know in the comments down below. Now let's move on to the news. Now, first story looks at WWE returning to the Thunderdome. Topping today's news is a wild rumor about WWE planning on returning to the fan-free facility known as WWE Thunderdome. As the pandemic continues to present uncertainty about whether society will undergo more quarantines, there's a possibility that WWE might be forced to run shows without fans present. Meltzer discussed this scenario on the Wrestling Observer Radio, noting it's unlikely to happen but speculating on how the WWE and AEW would handle things. I think they're both going to be pretty confident that Florida will not issue any mandates under any circumstance. Obviously, AEW can go back to Jacksonville and WWE can go back to some place in Florida. You can always do the Performance Center. The problem is that if you put Raw and SmackDown in front of 300 people again, those numbers will crater. So it's a bad situation and AEW's numbers will hurt too. Meltzer detailed how a move could affect the ratings. I don't know if they're crater as well. They did okay numbers in Jacksonville. Obviously, if there's no other choice, then yeah, we can go through that again. The Thunderdome thing, I mean, they did better in the Thunderdome than the Performance Center, so I think that in that sense, WWE could look at a Thunderdome again. He also suggested WWE might air shows in a baseball stadium since the season hasn't started. But while the chances of quarantine taking place are uncertain, you can be certain both companies are preparing for the worst. Next up, WWE Angle was supposed to happen in 2022. Is the WWE rushing the split between Omos and AJ Styles? Well, that may be the case, as WrestleVotes just recently reported if they felt like they sped up the Omos and AJ Styles split, it's because they did. Sources say both superstars have significant plans in early 2022 and wanted any type of blow-off program done prior to the Major Rumble and Mania events. While it's unknown what's next for Omos, our next story suggests that WWE already knows what to do with the Phenomenal One. As next up, a top star leaving Raw? Is AJ Styles leaving Raw? Well, a recent tweet from the WWE hinted Styles will be on NXT 2.0 on December 21st. They tweeted, "Is NXT 2.0 about to become phenomenal tomorrow night?" NXT superstar Grayson Waller replied, "Did I hear that right? AJ Styles wants to come to my house at NXT? Just make sure you wipe your feet on the way in." Paul Davis of Wrestling News suggests that Styles' appearance may be an attempt by WWE to help NXT 2.0's ratings. Could this be the start of an NXT run for Styles? Next up, Bray Wyatt appearing in WWE 2K22? Is WWE 2K22 going to feature Bray Wyatt and or his alter ego The Fiend? Well, Forbes analysed the situation as follows. The inclusion of player or athlete likenesses in sports or sports-themed games comes down to three factors: contract terms, relationships, and roster deadlines. First, was a person under contract when the game was announced and when the roster details were submitted? Secondly, were they a part of the initially submitted roster list that was approved by, in this case, the WWE? They concluded, all this said, WWE 2K fans should expect wrestlers like Adam Cole, Bray Wyatt, Johnny Gargano, Keith Lee, Jeff Hardy, Ruby Riott, Kyle O'Reilly, and some of the other top names who were released to be included in the roster. There's also a chance things could change, but for now I'd expect a roster of at least 150 guys and girls. As some pundits have suggested, the WWE might not include superstars who are in AEW. Will you buy 2K22 if it has a limited roster? As gamers and WWE fans await the release of 2K's Wrestling Simulator, there are many questions about the game, including which superstars will be included in the game's roster. Given the rash of releases this year and last year, some fans think the roster could be sparse. However, Wyatt isn't the only released wrestler who might show up. Next up, Roman Reigns responds to a hilarious sign. A recent live event showed Roman Reigns isn't afraid to take his tribal chief character arrogance to new heights. Reigns was teaming with the Usos against King Woods, Rey Mysterio, and Drew McIntyre when Woods took a fan sign that read, "Roman sits when he pees." Jey Uso grabbed the sign and ripped it up, but the Universal Champion wasn't going to let the taunt go unanswered. Roman had some fun mimicking that his bathroom activities require both hands. Well, we'll let you figure out the rest there. And finally, a wrestler blasts a booking of Indian wrestlers in WWE. A recently released WWE superstar Jeet Rama is speaking out against the WWE's presentation of his fellow Indians. During an interview with Sportskeeda, Rama asked why the WWE seems to book every Indian wrestler as a heel. My soul couldn't come to peace with the fact that I was making money by misrepresenting my country. When I wrestled at a WWE live event a few years in Delhi, I saw the Indian audience was booing Jinder Mahal. Isn't there something seriously wrong if your home audience isn't cheering for Jinder Mahal? At some levels, we as Indians have to compromise when we go to WWE. This is the weakness I want to eliminate. What do you guys think on Jeet's takings? Let us know in the comments down below, and I'll see you next time with some more wrestling content.